What if happiness was never meant to be caught, but only chased? Arthur Schopenhauer believed this was the tragedy of human existence. We live our lives convinced that happiness is just beyond the next achievement, the next possession, the next embrace. But each time we arrive, joy slips through our fingers, and the pursuit begins again. Desire, he argued, is not the path to happiness, it is the trap that ensures we never find it. From the moment we wake, desire commands us. We hunger for food, for comfort, for approval, for success. Every advertisement, every social post, every voice around us tells us that the next step will bring fulfillment. Yet when we reach it, fulfillment fades almost instantly. The new car loses its shine. The promotion becomes routine. The relationship settles into ordinariness. What once promised happiness dissolves into boredom, and boredom itself drives us toward the next desire. The cycle continues without end, like a wheel that spins faster the more we try to slow it. Schopenhauer called this the restless wheel, the blind force that propels all life forward. It does not rest, does not pause, does not care if we suffer. It demands endlessly, and we obey endlessly. To be alive, in his view, is to be caught in this current. Even when we think we are choosing freely, we are only following the commands of desire. Happiness is never stable, because desire never stops. Our moments of joy are only breathers, brief interludes before the next craving begins to burn. Think of how much of human life is organized around this cycle. Children long for adulthood, convinced freedom awaits. Adults long for youth, convinced happiness was lost. The poor imagine wealth as salvation, while the wealthy imagine simplicity as peace. The ambitious strive for recognition, while the famous dream of obscurity. Each stage envies the other, each desire invents its opposite, and no one arrives. The will ensures that the horizon of happiness always recedes as we approach. It is like chasing the line where the ocean meets the sky. It looks near, but it always stays out of reach. Schopenhauer saw suffering not only in pain, but in this endless pursuit. For as long as we desire, we are restless, and as long as we are restless, we cannot be at peace. To satisfy desire is only to awaken the next, and so satisfaction never lasts. To live by desire is to be ruled by an endless hunger that no feast can quiet. He compared human life to a pendulum swinging between two extremes, desire and boredom. When desire dominates, we are restless and dissatisfied. When boredom follows, emptiness consumes us. Either way, suffering fills the space. And yet, we cling to the illusion. We tell ourselves, just a little more. Just one more milestone, one more possession, one more recognition. But happiness is not waiting there. It is the bait that lures us deeper into the trap. The more we pursue it, the more we feed the will that enslaves us. Schopenhauer's insight was devastating because it revealed that the structure of life itself, desire, satisfaction, boredom, new desire, makes lasting happiness impossible. The will does not allow it. Look closely at your own life. How many times have you whispered, "If only I had this, I would be happy"? And how many times, once you had it, did that happiness dissolve into the ordinary, leaving you searching again? This cycle is not a personal failure, it is the nature of the will itself. The trap is built into existence. We cannot escape desire by fulfilling it, because fulfillment is the very thing that breeds the next desire. This is why Schopenhauer spoke so often of life as suffering. Not because every moment is pain, but because even our joys are chained to desire. What we call happiness is only the brief pause when the will is quieted, before it begins again. We live not in harmony with desire, but in servitude to it. And until we see this cycle for what it is, we remain trapped, chasing a happiness that was never meant to be caught. The truth is harsh, but in recognizing it, the first step toward freedom appears, to understand that happiness cannot be captured, only observed as it passes, fragile and fleeting like a shadow in the sun. If Schopenhauer was right, then the endless pursuit of desire is not just exhausting, it is the very engine of our suffering. To live under the illusion that happiness waits at the end of fulfillment is to be trapped in a cycle that never ends. Once a desire is satisfied, its place is quickly taken by another, and the chase begins again. Happiness fades, but desire remains, stronger and hungrier than before. Consider the way ambition works. A student dreams of graduation, believing that diploma will bring peace. Yet once received, the satisfaction lasts only a moment before the pressure of career begins. The employee longs for promotion, convinced the next level will bring contentment. But after the title is won, a new target replaces it. The wealthy chase more wealth, the powerful chase more power, and none can ever rest. In each case, joy is swallowed by new hunger. The cycle is merciless. Schopenhauer believed this was not an accident, but the very design of the will. Life is not arranged to grant us peace, but to keep us moving. The will drives us like a whip, punishing stagnation with boredom and rewarding achievement with only temporary relief. It is a treadmill, and we are compelled to run, even though the ground beneath us never changes. We may climb socially, financially, personally, but the structure of suffering remains intact. Even love, which many believe to be life's deepest source of happiness, is caught in the trap. The thrill of romance fades into familiarity, the passion of longing cools into routine. Desire keeps the bond alive, but it also ensures restlessness. When love fails to satisfy, the will whispers that another partner, another experience, another embrace will succeed. And so people chase endlessly, mistaking the renewal of desire for the promise of lasting joy. But the pattern never breaks. Boredom plays a cruel role here. When desire is briefly silenced, when we have nothing urgent to chase, we do not feel happiness. We feel emptiness. We complain of monotony, of a lack of meaning. This is the pendulum Schopenhauer described, from the torment of desire to the emptiness of boredom, and back again. We imagine happiness as hiding between these swings, but in truth it never lingers long enough to hold. The pendulum always moves. Think of how this shapes our culture. Entire industries profit from our restlessness. Advertisers promise that the next product will fulfill us. Politicians promise that the next reform will secure us. Self-help gurus promise that the next method will save us. Yet the promise always defers itself. The happiness they sell is not meant to be delivered, but to keep us searching, purchasing, striving. We are conditioned to live as though fulfillment is one step away, when in reality, it is a horizon that retreats forever. Schopenhauer's insight can feel dark, even cruel. But his goal was not to drag us into despair, it was to strip away illusion. He wanted us to see clearly why our happiness always dissolves, why we cannot hold it even when it rests in our hands. By recognizing the trap of desire, we are no longer fooled by its promises. We stop expecting the next milestone to bring peace, and in that shift, a new kind of wisdom begins. The pain of loss lessens when we understand it was inevitable. The disappointment of desire fades when we realize satisfaction was never meant to last. This wisdom does not eliminate suffering, but it transforms it. We see the pendulum for what it is, and we stop mistaking it for failure. We understand that chasing desire will not end suffering, it will only prolong it. And so, Schopenhauer argued, the first step toward freedom is not to chase harder, but to pause, to observe, to recognize the will's grip for what it is. Only then can we begin to imagine a life not enslaved by endless desire. If desire is the trap, then what is the way out? Schopenhauer did not believe in a perfect escape, for the will lives in every breath of existence. Yet he suggested that we could loosen its chains, that by shifting how we see life, we might find moments of release, moments where suffering is softened, where peace becomes possible. One path lies in acceptance. To accept that desire cannot deliver lasting happiness is to stop demanding it. We no longer blame ourselves when joy fades, nor curse the world when satisfaction dissolves. Instead, we see the cycle for what it is. This recognition does not remove suffering, but it transforms it. Frustration becomes less sharp when we expect it, and disappointment becomes lighter when we understand it as inevitable. Acceptance disarms the illusion, and in its place comes clarity. Another path, Schopenhauer argued, is art. In the experience of beauty, of music, of creativity, the will loosens its grip. A painting does not demand. A melody does not promise fulfillment only to snatch it away. They invite us to pause, to witness, to exist without striving. For a fleeting moment, We step outside the pendulum of desire and boredom and taste a different kind of life, one where we are not chasing, not yearning, but simply being. In art, we are freed from the restless hunger of the will. Compassion, too, offers release. When we recognize that every person is driven by the same blind will, our judgment softens. We see in their struggles a reflection of our own. The selfish, the ambitious, the restless, they are not villains alone, but prisoners of the same cycle. To respond with compassion is to loosen the will's hold, to act not out of desire, but out of shared humanity. In this way, silence and empathy become allies. By stepping back from the noise of our own cravings, we create space to see others clearly. Schopenhauer also pointed to asceticism, the deliberate refusal to feed desire, as the most radical path. Few can follow it fully, yet its lesson is profound. Each time we resist a craving, each time we refuse to let desire dictate our actions, we taste freedom. Even small acts of restraint remind us that the will does not command absolutely. There is a part of us that can step aside, that can witness without obeying. And in that space, strength grows. The message is not that life becomes painless. Schopenhauer never promised that. Rather, it is that life becomes more honest, and in honesty, more bearable. We stop being deceived by illusions of perfect happiness. We stop exhausting ourselves with the false hope that the next achievement, the next possession, the next embrace will finally complete us. Instead, we begin to live with eyes open, aware of suffering, but also aware of the fragile beauty that shines through it. And so we come to the paradox. Happiness cannot be caught, but peace can be found, not by feeding desire, but by loosening its grip. Freedom is not in having everything we want, but in wanting less. Meaning is not in conquering the will, but in stepping aside from its tyranny. This does not erase suffering, but it reshapes our relationship to it, turning struggle into strength and illusion into insight. Ask yourself, how many times have you chased happiness, only to find it dissolve as soon as you reached it? And what would it mean to stop running, to pause, to accept life as it is? Perhaps then you would see what Schopenhauer saw, that desire is the trap, but in recognizing it, in refusing its endless chase, you begin to taste a freedom deeper than happiness itself.